The other day I created a poll on Instagram asking a pretty simple question: do you believe you experience true free will? I was surprised to see that 50% of people said yes, 50% of people said no, and that kind of caught me off guard because I thought that free will was received as a fundamental freedom that human beings experience, the very thing that separates us from animals. The reason I asked this question is because this whole week I've been watching a lot of videos about free will. I've been wrapping my brain around it because I've always felt that it was unfair that each person has certain desires that pulls them in a certain direction that maybe leads to a positive outcome, while other people have certain pulls in their life, like emotional pulls, subconscious pulls, that lead them towards a negative place in life. And I thought, how can we say we have free will if there are so many factors that result in the decisions we make that are fixed? They're out of our control. They come from this obscure place in the back of our mind, and we just follow it along like a donkey chasing a carrot. I heard a quote by a German philosopher. His name was Arthur Schopenhauer. Translated to English, what he basically said is that man can do what he wants, but he can't want what he wants. You can do what you desire, but you can't desire what you want to desire. He's essentially saying, if you think about it, we don't have free will. Human beings don't have free will. The times that you've thought about this, or at least the first time, you might be saying, no, of course I have free will. I can choose what I want to do in life. I wake up, I can decide to go take a shower or brush my teeth. I get to make that decision. But I want to throw out some examples to you and kind of have you see the thought process that can lead you to realize we don't actually have free will, not in the sense that we think we do. Let's go back high level. There's laws of nature that dictate what we can do and cannot do. No free will in that. Things like gravity, etc. You can't decide what planet you are on. You can't decide what country you were born into. You can't decide the time period you were born into, the parents you were born into, how well they're doing socioeconomically. You can't decide your race. You can't decide the gender you're born into. Now, of course, no one's going to disagree with any of those things. I understand that. Those are high level. But let's drill down to a smaller level. Let's say you're a straight male and this fine woman walks by. She's got big everything, beautiful, gorgeous, everything you'd want. When you see that person, you experience a sense of attraction, right? Is there any free will in your attraction? When you're attracted to somebody, can you just say to yourself, I'm going to use my free will to not be attracted? No. You can choose not to act on that attraction, but you don't have any ability to say whether or not you are attracted. You just are or you aren't. Same way as someone that you're not attracted to. Now, not just physically, but even personality, whatever. When you meet someone that's really cool, she's really nice, maybe your preference is women that are humble and they're funny and they're like relatable. When you are around that person, the sensation you experience, do you get any control over that, or does it just occur? It just occurs. And then you react off of that experience. The experience is basically guiding you. We're like puppets, like marionette puppets, right? Strings and you're like, dancing around. A marionette puppet obviously has no free will. It also has no conscience. But even if it had a consciousness, if you are the one controlling the strings, you're still in control. Well, we have strings as well as human beings. One string might represent our emotion. If you're somebody who is very, very soft-spoken, you can't just decide to no longer feel the experience of being soft-spoken, because it's a result of so many different factors from your past and your genes and your family history and the way you're raised. All these things you have no control over, by the way, of course. Where's the free will on that? That determines your temperament. So one string can be emotion. One string can be your ability to reason. Our ability to reason is not a decision, right? You're listening to me right now. With all your might, with all the free will you may believe you have, can you stop understanding the words that are coming out of my mouth right now? With all your free will, can you stop hearing me right now as you're listening to me? Right? Can you stop seeing me as you're listening to me? Right? We have senses, right? What's one of the strings? We have senses that we can't turn off or on. We have no control of them, which very much dictate what we do in our life and how we do it. Right? Another string that's pulling you along is your circumstance, your experiences in life, being raised by maybe someone of a certain moral background. Your parents maybe have a certain belief that gets put onto you. And if they don't have a belief, the teachers that raised you, in schools essentially, just their ethics and the way they correct you or they discipline you, right? All these things accumulate from where we are right now into our past, into infinity. They cause you to be and make decisions in a certain way, right? If I'm hungry, I got a banana here, right? Let's say you have a banana and you have a cantaloupe, right? And you're hungry. Well, which one do you choose? Ask yourself, if you had to choose right now between a cantaloupe and a banana, what do you choose? Take a moment to be a bit more introspective and go inwards and see, what is the sensation that's occurring to me when I'm deciding that? Is it me just saying, whatever I choose, I'm going to enjoy it because I have free will to enjoy whatever I want? No, there's something going on inside that tells you you want a banana, that draws you towards wanting a cantaloupe. And that's what's pulling you. This morning I had some strawberries, and when I bit into the strawberry, I was reflecting on this very topic. I was like, do I have the ability to decide I don't like these strawberries anymore? No, strawberries are one of my favorite fruits. There's a sensation, there's a pleasure that builds up inside of me that I have no control over. And so when I have the option to eat strawberries over anything else, I'm probably gonna eat the strawberries, right? Those sensations in your body heavily dictate your decisions. I'd argue they completely dictate your decisions, right? And there's so many inputs in our body that determine, that we listen to, right? We feel, we listen to it, that we make a decision off of. I remember when I was in high school, and I'm sure you remember, you were in high school and there's kind of like a career day type thing where, over the course of time, they get you thinking about what you want to do for a living as an adult. One of the things that really grinded my gears, I'd be so like, I didn't know what I wanted to do. And then you'd have a person over there and they didn't want to do anything in life but work on cars. They just knew they wanted to be a mechanic. They didn't have all these different things pulling at them. They just knew what they wanted to do, and they went and did it. Some people said I want to be a nurse. Some people said I want to be a teacher. And I found myself envying them because they just knew what they want to do. The sensation they experienced in their body, in their mind, led to only one path: mechanic, nurse, teacher. And here I am over there, have all the energy and the desire and the motive to just go and do something, and I couldn't figure out what that thing is. I didn't have that one sensation. And is that sensation something that you can dictate? Is there any free will in that? If I ask you what your favorite color is, maybe it's blue. Could I pay you $1 million for you to experience purple as your free will, as your favorite color? Sorry. No matter what I do, you can't change that. So what you realize is that every day we're making decisions, and there's a history of millions of different inputs that were accumulated together, and calculations, the sort of calculations running in the back of your mind that leads you to a decision. And all you do is look inwards, see what that decision is, and then you act on it. So we have all these different strings that merge together, and that leads us to who we are and the decisions we make. And you might be saying, Adrian, this sounds really maybe this sounds like a really downer kind of on topic, but it's not. There's really no negatives to understanding that you don't have true free will, and there's actually two really great things that come from it, which I'll share with you at the end of the video. But I want to continue giving you a couple more examples. A couple more. I'm heavily introverted. If you don't know what that means, essentially, I get energized. I build my energy stores back up by being alone. I can go out and be social. I can go to parties and gatherings and be in groups and enjoy the experience. But those social experiences drains me. I can't choose to not be introverted. I recognize it plays a heavy role into how I operate my daily life. If free will existed, particularly in the way that we think it does, you wouldn't have such a hard time with those habits that you want to do it, but for some reason it's not happening. You want to go for a 30-minute walk every morning, but for some reason you're only doing it 2 or 3 times a week. Why? The field of neuroscience and philosophy has been dealing with this consideration for a long time.
How can we be free as conscious agents if everything we consciously intend was caused by events in our brain which we did not intend and over which we had no control? We can't. The fact that our choices depend upon prior causes does not mean that choice doesn't matter. This is one point of confusion that people have. They confuse determinism with fatalism.
You may know that there's different personality types. There's different cognitive function structures, like the Myers-Briggs. You might know that there's like 16 personality types that have been kind of documented and categorized. But I'm an INTP. So there's certain things that is known about people with my personality trait. There's people that they understand the 16 different personality types so well that once they realize or find out what your personality type is, they'll be able to tell you what you're probably going to do in a given circumstance before you've even decided to do it. Something that I've always I learned it like maybe a decade ago, and I've never forgot it. And it's the fact that there are 2 basic human motives. Every action we take comes down to one of 2 reasons, usually a mixture of that. And it's either the desire to attain pleasure, a positive sensation, to feel good, or to avoid pain. Again, pain doesn't have to be physical pain. It could be just the sense of displeasure, dis-ease, a negative, bad feeling. So when you itch your nose, it's probably a mixture of two. Like, it's the desire to attain pleasure, of relieving that itch, and to avoid the pain of the discomfort continuing. Do you have any say in whether you achieve pleasure from a certain activity, or achieve or avoid pain in a certain activity? No, those just happen. If you know that every time you sit in a cross-legged position, it really bothers you, there's a lot of discomfort, maybe you're not that flexible, you may decide not to sit in that position because there's more pain associated to that, so you want to avoid the pain. Or you have pain when you sit in that position, but you insist on sitting in that position. Well, why would you insist on sitting in a position that gives you pain? Well, maybe there's a stronger desire to attain the pleasure of eventually being able to sit cross-legged and enjoy that. And so you're experiencing the pleasure of improving your flexibility and being able to comfortably sit in that position. A person can do what they want, but they can't choose what they want. You can buy anything in the world. You can buy anything in the world, potentially. But you can't buy the desire to want it. As I'm sure you're aware, we have our conscious mind, and then we have our subconscious mind. And we don't have access to our subconscious mind. It affects everything we do in our daily life, but we have no control over it. You know how every day you probably experience yourself thinking thoughts that you had, where did that thought come from? Why did I think about that one experience when I was 14 years old? What stimulated that thought? And you might hear all these things and say, okay, all that's true. All these sensations and my experiences and the subconscious mind and my emotions, all these things I don't have control over, there's no free will there, but I still have a little bit of free will somewhere. Well, I would pose this question to you. How much restrictions would have to be put on your life or on a being's life in order for you to consider it has no free will? And I would argue that we never had free will to begin with. Now, with all this being said, there are two really good things that come from this, embracing the lack of free will that we have. And there's really no negatives to it. So the first good thing that comes from it is that understanding that we lack free will, it kind of acts as an antidote to hatred. What do I mean? A lot of times hatred, we attribute this desire, this emotion of hatred to people because we think they're the ones making their decisions without any outside input or really motive, and they're just doing really bad things. They're evil people. And when you realize there's no such thing as free will, and there's all these different factors that combine to lead to the decisions we make, you realize a lot of people that are doing really bad things, they're a victim of the history that combined to bring them to who they are right now. That doesn't mean that we shouldn't hold people socially or personally responsible. That's not what I'm saying. If someone has this desire to wield a knife and go outside and throw it around and swing it at people, they need to be locked up. We need to keep them in check because they're harmful to society. So I'm not saying that we should get rid of personal responsibility, but it allows you to no longer feel these strong emotions of dislike towards people because you realize they're victims of a situation. Even if it's a self-imposed situation, they're victims nonetheless. If you're born a psychopath, can you blame that person, that consciousness that embodies that brain? Can you blame them and hold them responsible? Like, yes, as a physical being, you can hold them responsible, but as a consciousness, don't you feel kind of bad that they're born into that situation? They had the mind of a psychopath. You know, if someone was born with a brain disorder or a tumor or something in their brain that we can scientifically prove is causing alterations in the way they think and they perceive the world that makes them psychotic, sociopathic, we have sympathy for that person. But if someone has a natural predisposition, but we can't identify scientifically the cause of it, suddenly we blame them. We say, like, you're bad, you're evil, you're wrong, and we don't have any sympathy for them. Well, why is that? And that's the second point. My second point is, you know, on the one hand, what we just discussed, it's a kind of an antidote for hatred, understanding that free will doesn't exist. On the other hand, it gives us more sympathy for people because we can look at them and say, we're all a product of our environment in the truest form. The environment not just being our geographic location, but everything from our past. Everything that went into leading us up to who we are today. All those chains of events. The thousands of generations that led us here. You can look at people and realize, man, everyone has a different experience, a different story. And most people that are living a life that we don't think is good, because we see them as kind of a victim of the circumstance, we don't negate the fact that they might be doing wrong. we hold them accountable. But we can have some sympathy, knowing that that person, again, is a victim. So it's an antidote for hatred and a giver of sympathy and empathy. Because we all have different circumstances. We all have things about ourselves that we don't like. And if we had free will, we could just eradicate those things we don't like without even working on it. Like, it would just happen. So whether you agree with any of this, maybe you completely disagree, maybe you agree and it makes you feel a little depressed, just realize that it makes no difference knowing this now or realizing this now than it did prior to knowing this now. We're still going through our days making decisions. It's just that the things that are used to lead to those decisions aren't in our free will, but we're still making decisions. We still have the ability to impact the direction we go in life. And to do that, as you've heard your whole life, you can choose who you expose yourself to, your group of friends. You can choose to read information to add more variables, more information to this calculation that is running subconsciously in your mind that leads to the decisions you make. There's certain things we know in life that positively contribute to the way we experience and live life. Being healthy, being around good people, learning, continuing to learn, continuing to experience. All these things that we consider, as being good for our health, they all allow us to contribute to living a life that's more in line with whatever we want. I hope this was an interesting little thought experiment for you. Whether you agree, disagree, unsure what to think, let me know down in the comments. I'd love to hear it and get a little conversation going. I respond to every comment, so I'll be down there for sure. And otherwise, I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.